Hi, I'm Apollo, and let's talk about The Summer I Died, written by Ryan C. Thomas. We'll start with the blurb. When Roger Huntington comes home from college for the summer and is met by his best friend Tooth, he knows they're going to have a good time. A summer full of beer, comic books, movies, laughs, and maybe even girls. The sun is high and the sky is clear as Roger and Tooth set out to shoot beer cans at Bobcat Mountain. Just two friends catching up on lost time. Two friends thinking about their future. Two friends suddenly thrust into the middle of a nightmare, forced to fight for their lives against a sadistic killer with an arsenal of razor-sharp blades and a hungry dog by his side. If they are to survive, they must decide, are heroes born or are they made? Or is something more powerful happening to them? And more importantly, how do you survive when all roads lead to death? Okay, now this isn't exactly a review. I'm more or less just talking about this book. And with that being said, there will be spoilers. I thought about splitting this into like two parts, one spoiler free, the other spoilers galore. But I'm just gonna go in with spoilers. For something of a small review, here's this. This book is brutal. If you have siblings, it'll hit harder. If you have close friends like brothers, times that by two. Being able to actually empathize with the characters and actually put yourself in their headspace, trying to figure out how you'd escape or how you would react or what you would do, will help you look past this book as just a bunch of gore and torture. It'll probably take a mental toll, not gonna lie, but it's how I read this book, and boy, it was something. If you can do that, not saying I recommend you do that, I highly recommend this book. If you can't and think you'd rather not read about people getting tortured, don't read the book. It's that simple. If I were to rate this book out of 10, I'd give it a 7.5. Do with that scale what you will. I have no other book ratings, and I kind of just pulled that out of thin air. It has as much worth as you put on it. If you're a seasoned horror fan, or more specifically, an extreme horror fan, I highly recommend this book. If this is your first extreme horror, maybe find something else, or try it anyway. Who am I to stop you? It's your trauma, dog. Now, moving forward, there will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. Okay. This book did a number on me, man. Right. This is like the first book to really get a reaction out of me. I've heard of people talking about, oh, I had to take breaks after reading certain books. I just felt tired from it all, felt depressed. But I've never experienced that until this book. It could be because I don't step into this genre too frequently. Honestly, if I lived in this genre, it'd probably be bad for my mental health. But still, this isn't my first extreme horror book I've read. At a certain point in this book, I just wanted it to end. It was literally torture, but like in the best way possible. I promise I'm not a masochist. I remember just sitting there listening. Oh, by the way, I listened to this book, audiobook, obviously. I got an older version, which was narrated by Gary DeCaos. For some reason, the entire series was reread by a new narrator. I haven't bought any of those books, but I like the older narrator. He's a bit hammy in some areas, but his style has its own charm. I could also be saying that because I have a warped sense of Stockholm Syndrome growing a love for the voice that dragged me through this hell that was this book. But anyway, I like the old narrator. He's good. Moving forward, I'll probably use listen and read interchangeably, so keep that in mind. They all basically mean the same thing. I read the book, I listened to the book. You get it. Anyway, like I was saying, getting through this book was torture in a good way. It was literally the longest 7 hours of my life. I didn't finish it all in one sitting, obviously, but boy, did this book just drag me back every time I put it down. Like, it was the oddest way to I don't want to read this, but boy, I have to keep reading this. It was just brilliant. I remember I had a break at work, and I was just sitting there listening to the book, and I pulled my hat down over my eyes, and I was just fighting through the scene. I was just mentally pleading with the author to just let it end, which I feel is exactly what he wanted. It's a book literally about torture. The characters sure as hell are having a good time. If I was, I feel like this book would have fallen a bit flat. So, yeah. Another thing I like about this book is the beginning. I'm usually really impatient. Slow starts are my bane, I can't stand them, but the start of this book wasn't bad. I think it was partially because I knew there was some messed up stuff on the other side of the slow start. I didn't have any clue as to what the book was about, really. I bought this book in 2021 and got around to actually reading it in 2025, so by the time I'd completely forgotten why I'd bought it. I just knew there was some messed up stuff somewhere in there. But at the start of the book, it's just Tooth and Roger, being bros, hanging about, drinking beer, talking about girls, shooting cans, just stuff. It feels real, like you're just hanging out with a couple pals. Which is nice because it means you get to know the characters. I didn't exactly like Tooth, he's kind of a dick. But we all know a guy like Tooth, or have ran into people like Tooth, who again, is kind of a dick, but he's got your back when it counts. You can rely on this guy. But don't leave him around your girl. He's kind of skeevy. Yeah, Tooth is kind of skeevy, but he's a bit messed up. But it's Tooth. It's Tooth. If you read the book, it's Tooth. Come on. Roger, our protagonist, is the complete vehicle we go through this hell with. Seeing all things from his perspective, we don't get a glimpse into anyone else's mind, which makes sense. Grounding the story that way kind of makes it feel more isolated and trapped, even though the cast of characters isn't all that big. I will admit, after the torture kicks off, there was a point where I was frustrated that Roger kept dodging all the damage. As much as a dick that Tooth is, it wasn't like a slasher movie where you don't care or outright want the characters to die. I wanted Tooth to live. I wanted all of the victims to live, and seeing that good old Roger just kept slipping through the jaws of torture while Tooth just kept getting dismantled, and if you read the book, you know I used the word dismantled with intention, it was really starting to get to me. And then I realized Roger not losing the dice games was intentional. With that, let's talk about the supernatural element. I didn't really expect the book to have a supernatural element, even though the blurb kind of hinted at it. I thought Roger was just straight up lucky, but as the book progressed, I was like, oh, this nigga got someone on his side. That someone being the writer, because seeing as the series has 4 more books, can't really have your vehicle for storytelling getting his eyes plucked out or having him turn into a
fucking vegetable.
He could have lost a few fingers, but for the sake of the story, yeah, I get it. I like the supernatural element. I can't outright say it came from nowhere, considering the blurb, and also some other things that throughout the story, you kind of pick up on it as you go. But I'm pretty sure there are people who don't like the supernatural element when things aren't grounded firmly in reality. But in my opinion, supernatural elements in books always give the reader a bit of hope, which I like because this book severely lacks any hope. I won't go into too much detail on the supernatural element because I'm a bit foggy on it, but I liked it. Also, a detail I should mention is that it's been a while since I've read this book. I said I finished it around 2025. Well, it ain't 2025 no more, and we're in April. So some of the details, like I said, are a bit foggy. I'll try to steer clear of the details I'm not sure of. I could have gone back and reread the book, but I personally hate rereading things or rewatching things. There needs to be a very long time between so that it feels fresh. It's just a me thing. I know you can learn new things after rereading or rewatching stuff, but that's just not how I'm wired. And additionally, even if I was wired to want to go back and reread things, this book isn't something I would frequently go back to. It's just heavy. It's just emotionally heavy. Anyway, back to the start of the book again. Something else that makes it good is that the fact of how normal it feels. It's just another day, really. But in the back of your mind as the reader, you know it's about to go tits up. And if you don't know exactly how, like I did, as each paragraph goes by, you just get this building dread, which unlike in a horror movie erupts with a jump scare or reveal of the killer, this one goes from dread to despair when things kick off. There is literally no relief in this book until maybe the last 3%. It is bleak as hell from the moment Tooth and Roger meet Skinny Man and they get stuck in that basement. The book does dread and despair really well. It truly feels hopeless, and the only glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel is the fact that you know Roger somehow makes it out. If he makes it out in all his bits and pieces in the right place, that's one thing you don't know. The only thing I don't like about limiting a story to one perspective, especially if it's horror and is pretty much grounded in the physical world, most often than not, the protagonist is going to survive. You know that from a fact going in. But everyone else around them is fair game, which isn't bad if the writer can make you actually care about the people around the protagonist, which Ryan C. Thomas does. But having the extra dread of not knowing if your protagonist makes it out is just a cherry on top. Now, speaking of dread, the harshest part of this book, honestly the part that made me want to write the author and plead with him not to do what he was about to do, was when Skinny Man kidnaps Roger's sister, Jamie. Bro, I tell you, when Roger gets his license found by Skinny Man, and he starts talking about, oh, I'm gonna go get your sister, my heart was in my bungie, dog. Bro, like, legitimately, it was a pit just opened up in my stomach. I was like, please don't, bro. I felt so much dread in that moment. I legitimately went through all of the stages of grief except acceptance. The moment Jamie was introduced, the idea was always in the back of my mind that she would get involved. Chekhov's gun and all that, you know. But I really didn't want to believe it. Even when Jamie was brought into the Skinny Man's sick game, I didn't want to believe it. Now I say I empathize with these characters, and if you ever write a horror story for me, the best way to affect me is make it about siblings. Jeepers Creepers did legitimate Hall of Fame numbers on me. Growing up with sisters, having Jamie be brought into this mess, I couldn't help but think how defeated, how driven mad, how... Honestly, it's hard to put into words. Jamie's character wasn't even that major. She had her annoying moments, Roger complained about her, typical sibling stuff, but the impact she brings by literally being dragged into hell, I can hardly describe, and it's of no fault of her own. She's just brought into this. The one thing I can't thank Ryan C. Thomas enough for is the fact that we never see Jamie's torture. I know people say leaving things to the imagination is worse than showing it on screen because you can imagine far worse than someone else can put in front of you. Nah. Cut that garbage out. That ain't work on me. I knew Jamie was being brutalized, but I would much rather have to sit and speculate on what was going on rather than sitting there helpless, powerless, just watching her get taken apart like I was a failed superhero or something. I'm glad that wasn't on screen. And like I mentioned, my annoyance at Roger dodging torture, like I dodged the IRS, I'm not even American, I just thought that was funny. My annoyance was turned into straight up anger when Jamie was brought into the picture. Because bro was literally just avoiding torture at every friggin' turn. Now, this is the part I'm kind of foggy on, but I don't even remember Roger trying to offer himself up in Jamie's place. I think he thought about it, like, hey, please, maybe, no, don't touch my sister. But I don't think he ever actually said, no, take me instead. Those bits were really, really working on me. Like, okay, Roger's a bit of a coward, folding into himself to avoid the horror, even though he's not the one being tortured. But his journey is him pushing past his cowardice a bit. Another thing I'm foggy on, but I'm pretty sure him becoming braver is a part of his arc. Like him coming into his own, moving out of his fear, which is a good arc, especially for a horror story. But I just saying, him not even trying to offer himself up in his sister's place, even if it was a lie, even if he was just straight up lying, and he didn't mean it one bit. Like, come on, dog, do something. Easier said than done, maybe, but like, me personally, in my heart of hearts, I couldn't just sit there and let some nigga just do that to my sister without even like trying to pull his attention on me first, bro. Anyway, Jamie deserves better. And the final punch in the balls, just a Mike Tyson hook straight into the testicles. is the fact that she survived the torture only to die in the hospital a few days later. That legitimately devastated me, dog. Okay, I don't subscribe to the whole I'd rather die and live in a certain state idea. I think life is worth living regardless of circumstances, no matter how bad it really gets. Life is something, I think there's always something worth living for. Doors can be opened for improvement. Life can get better regardless of how low you are in a state of mind. There's always something to live for. I don't like the death being a way out just because of grievous bodily harm, because death is so final. There's literally nothing there. Like, there's no chance of improvement. I'd rather a 1% chance of improvement than literally no percent chance of improvement. I know not everyone sees it like that, but that's just how I see it. And Jamie dying at the end there, it just felt like there was nothing there. Like, it was just hopeless. Like, the hope I held on to for her, that she might just get out of there alive, was pointless. And honestly, it ultimately was. I don't even think she got to say goodbye at the end there. I think she just held on for a few more days, maybe in a coma, I'm not sure. Then she just died. It honestly felt like it was a punch in the heart. Like, I have a theory that Ryan C. Thomas couldn't bring himself to actually write out the descriptions of Jamie's torture. I have no proof of this other than the voices in my head. But it's just something I assumed. Maybe he did write it out and cut it out. But God knows, I would not have been able to write that. I would have fried my keyboard from all the tears if I had to write that out. Alright, let's get to wrapping this up. And let's get to the monster behind all of this. Skinny Man. This sick freak is an unpredictable whirlwind of depravity. This nigga is a sadist of the highest order, covered in depraved tattoos ranging from orgies to straight up bestiality, and I'm pretty sure dude was into necrophilia, another thing I'm foggy on. But honestly, seeing his whole MO, him not being into necrophilia actually would be a surprise. So let's just say, headcanon, if I'm wrong, dude was a necro. Skinny Man is an active threat, more of a crazed monster than an actual human being. But throughout the book, I can't say I was actually afraid of him. Like, I wasn't scared of him at all. Each time he was described, I just sat there thinking, I could totally bash this dude's head in. He's described as skinny, hence the name, and pretty strong, but at least personally, there was never a moment prior to them being trapped where I thought, this guy could ever take me. To stray into a tangent a little bit, you do kind of have to accept some things that are beyond the realm of possibility, like all the damage Tooth gains and somehow still lives, the at times literally comical levels of vile the Skinny Man is, or the fact that he's gotten away with the kidnapping and torturing of people for so long, like literally no one's got onto this guy's trail. Anyway, at every point through this book, I wanted to kill Skinny Man. He is literally just vile. And the glimmers of backstory we get from him don't try to humanize him either, which I am so glad for. If Ryan tried to throw in a sympathetic backstory for this friggin' guy at the 11th hour, I would have hated this book. One of the few pinprick glimmers of hope flickering in and out like a candle in a friggin' industrial fan store is the fact that I knew Skinny Man was probably gonna die. And I could hope that Roger's escape and subsequent revenge would be worth this arduous trial. In short, Roger's get back was sweet. That was sweet as hell, boy. But it wasn't exactly what I wanted. Maybe give Skinny Man that treatment the collector got at the end of the collection. You know what I'm talking about? But regardless, the freak ends up dead, which I was so happy for, because a part of me was genuinely terrified knowing that there were sequels to this book, that the Skinny Man would somehow escape and he would end up just getting away and getting the rest of Roger's family and anyone he ever loved. Granted, the supernatural element of this book, they might pull the Black Phone 2, if you know what I'm talking about. Big up Roger though, he wasn't a conquer Dan, he get the job done. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the video. This is more of a rant than anything. I just like this book, so I wanted to talk about it. So, what did you think of The Summer I Died? Did it affect you? Was it positive? Was it negative? What was the most impactful part of the book for you? If you haven't read the book, why did you spoil yourself? Do you like hearing some guy talk about a book he read like a year ago, probably recounting it poorly, and in a hardly coherent ramble? Anyway, if you got any extreme horror books with some soul, let me know in the comments below. There's your homework for the day. This will account for a sizable portion of your grade, so I expect answers in the comments. On a serious note, I've been thinking about making this video for a while about this book specifically. I really wanted to talk about it, but as you can see from my upload schedule on this channel, consistency is not a word I know the meaning of. I've also just finished this book called The Groomer by John Nathan. It's something light, it's pretty nice. Some heavy stuff in there too, if you know what I'm saying. I recommend that one too. I might make a video about it. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you for watching my video. My name is Apollo Smith. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later.